The first time I realized things had gone too far with my fitness partner was when I could tell Justin's mood just by the way his shoulders moved under the barbell. Not by his face. Not by what he said. By his shoulders. That's when it hit me that this wasn't just two guys spotting each other at the gym anymore. Justin and I met the most boring way possible, same gym, same early morning schedule. Both of us silently judging everyone who skipped leg day. We'd been doing that awkward nod at each other thing for weeks before he finally asked if I wanted to alternate sets on the squat rack. His voice was casual, like it didn't matter, but I remember noticing how close he stood when he said it. Close enough that I could smell his deodorant, clean and sharp, cutting through the rubber and sweat air of the gym. From that day on, we were a pair. At first, it was strictly practical. We trained hard, kept each other accountable, talked macros and rest days like two dudes who pretended that feelings didn't exist. Justin was all discipline, clean meals, strict programming, no excuses. I was looser, more instinct-based. Somehow it worked. He pushed me to be consistent. I reminded him not to turn every workout into self-punishment. We learned each other's bodies in the normal gym way first. How deep he needed to squat before his knees complained. How my right shoulder always needed extra warm-up. Where to place a hand on a spot so it actually helped instead of distracted. The gym teaches you awareness whether you want it or not. But awareness turns into familiarity faster than you expect. I started noticing things I shouldn't have. The way Justin exhaled through his teeth on heavy reps. The way the veins stood out on his forearms when he gripped the bar. The faint scar near his left hip that only showed when his shirt rode up during deadlifts. None of it meant anything on its own. At least that's what I told myself. I'm Brian, by the way. 30. Gay. Out but not loud about it. The gym had always been neutral ground for me, a place where I didn't have to explain myself. Where effort mattered more than identity. Justin never asked. I never told. Felt easier that way. Justin was harder to read. He talked about dates with women sometimes, always vaguely, like he was reciting a summary instead of a memory. He never flirted at the gym. Never checked anyone out. He focused, trained, left. If there was something going on under the surface, he kept it locked down tight. Things shifted the day he tweaked his lower back. Nothing dramatic. Just a sharp wince halfway through a set and the kind of stillness that tells you someone's trying not to panic. I stepped in automatically, hands on his sides, guiding the bar back into the rack. For a second, he leaned into me without thinking. Full weight, full trust. You good? I asked. Yeah, he said too fast. Then quieter. Maybe not. We spent the rest of the session doing rehab movements, slow and controlled. I showed him stretches I'd learned in physical therapy years ago, correcting his form with my hands because it was faster than explaining. Hip angle. Spine neutral. Breathe here, not there. Damn, Justin said at one point, lying on the mat, staring at the ceiling. You should charge for this. I laughed. Don't tempt me. He smiled, eyes still closed. I'm serious. You actually know what you're doing. That smile stuck with me longer than it should have. After that, the lines blurred. Stretching together became routine. Warm-ups got longer. Cool-downs turned into conversations. We started timing our showers so we'd leave at the same time, pretending it was coincidence. I learned the exact pattern of freckles across his upper back without ever really meaning to look. And the messed up part? I think he learned mine too. The gym mirrors don't lie. Neither do bodies that spend that much time side by side, under strain, breathing the same air. We were reading each other without speaking, anticipating, adjusting, knowing, too well. And I had this growing sense that Justin knew it too, but neither of us was ready to say what that knowledge might actually mean. That came later, much later. The funny thing is, nothing happened right away. That was almost worse. Justin's back healed, but whatever shifted between us didn't snap back into place. If anything, it settled in deeper. We trained lighter for a few weeks, more controlled, more time under tension. That meant more time close, more time correcting each other, more time noticing. I caught him watching me in the mirror once. Not in a casual checking form way. In a still, focused way. When our eyes met, he didn't look away immediately. Just lifted an eyebrow, like he'd been caught doing something mildly embarrassing. "What?" I asked. "Nothing," he said too quickly. Then, "Your deadlifts improved." I snorted. "That's the smoothest cover-up I've ever heard." He laughed, but there was color in his cheeks. I pretended not to notice. We were both getting good at pretending. Outside the gym, we started bleeding into each other's lives. Protein shakes turned into coffee. Coffee turned into meals. Meals turned into long walks to help digestion that somehow lasted hours. We talked about families, about work, about things we usually kept buried. Justin admitted he hated his job but stayed because it paid well. I told him about my last relationship and how it ended quietly, without a fight, which somehow hurt more. He listened, really listened, the kind where he didn't interrupt or try to fix anything. One night, after a brutal leg session, we sat in his car in the parking lot, neither of us in a hurry to leave. The windows were fogged from the heat still radiating off our bodies. Sweat dried slowly on our skin. "You ever feel like your body knows stuff before your head does?" Justin asked, staring straight ahead. I froze, not outwardly, just inside. "Yeah," I said carefully. "All the time." He nodded like that confirmed something. "Lately I feel like mine's ahead of me." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy, charged. I wanted to say something. I didn't know what. Instead, Justin opened his door. "See you tomorrow?" "Yeah," I said. "Tomorrow." But tomorrow didn't stay the same. We were playing chicken without admitting it. The moment that broke everything was stupidly ordinary. We were in the locker room, late, almost empty. Justin was changing his shirt, back to me, muscles relaxed instead of flexed for once. I said something sarcastic, I don't even remember what, and he laughed, bending forward slightly. That's when I noticed his breathing hitch. Not from laughter. He straightened slowly, turned halfway toward me, eyes dark with something unguarded. For the first time since I'd known him, Justin looked uncertain. "Brian," he said, and the way he said my name felt different. Heavier. "Yeah." He swallowed. "We need to talk." My heart started pounding, loud enough I was sure he could hear it. "Okay." He looked down at the bench between us instead of at me. "I don't think this is just training anymore." I exhaled, slow. "No, I don't think so either." That got his attention. He looked up, searching my face like he was bracing for impact. "You're not freaked out?" I shook my head. "I've been trying not to be obvious about it." A short, breathless laugh escaped him. "You failed." "Yeah," I said. "You didn't exactly ace it either." "I don't know what this means," Justin said quietly. I met his eyes. "We don't have to decide that right now." He nodded, relief flickering across his face. "Good. Because I just know that I don't want to stop." Once we said it out loud, this isn't just training, everything slowed down. Not in a bad way, in a careful way. Justin didn't suddenly become a different person. Neither did I. We still met at the same time. Still followed our program. Still joked about people curling in the squat rack. But there was an awareness now, like we were constantly brushing against something fragile and valuable at the same time. We were choosing restraint. And that choice took effort. The gym became quieter somehow. Or maybe I was just paying closer attention. The clank of plates. The low hum of the treadmills. Justin's breathing during sets. My own heartbeat when he stepped too close. One afternoon he failed a rep on bench. Nothing dramatic. I caught the bar easily, helped rack it. But when he sat up, he stayed there, elbows on his knees, head down. "Everything okay?" I asked. He nodded, then shook his head. "Yeah, no, I don't know." He glanced at me, hesitating. "I've never questioned myself like this before." I kept my voice steady. "That doesn't mean anything's wrong." "I know," he said. "It just feels like I opened a door I didn't even know was there." I smiled faintly. "Some doors only show up when you're ready to see them." He huffed a quiet laugh. "You always talk like that?" "Only when I'm nervous." That got a real smile out of him. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "I trust you, Brian. That's the part that's messing with me." Something tightened in my chest. "You can take this at your pace." "I know," he said. Then softer, but I don't want distance. I just don't want to rush into something and ruin it. I nodded. Same. That night, instead of going our separate ways, we grabbed food. Nothing fancy. Just takeout eaten on the hood of his car. Still in gym clothes, legs sore, bodies tired in that good way. We talked about nothing and everything. He told me about his first gym membership at 19, how lifting gave him control when everything else felt messy. I told him how coming out didn't feel like freedom at first, just exposure, and how long it took to feel comfortable in my own skin. He listened the same way he always did. Quiet, focused, like he was learning a new movement and didn't want to mess it up. When we stood to leave, there was a moment. One of those pauses that stretches longer than it should. The kind that begs a decision. I've been thinking about this all day, he said. Yeah, I replied. If I don't do something now, I'm going to keep overthinking it. My breath caught. Okay. He hesitated only a second more, then leaned in, not fast, not hesitant either. Just honest. Was that okay? He asked quietly. I smiled. Yeah, more than okay. He exhaled, a sound halfway between relief and disbelief. Driving home, my hands were still shaking on the steering wheel, not from nerves, exactly, but from the weight of what had just started. The next morning at the gym felt almost normal, which somehow made it more intense. We nodded at each other like usual, set up our stations, started warming up. If someone had been watching us, they wouldn't have noticed a thing. But I noticed everything. The way Justin's jaw tightened when I brushed past him. The way he avoided my eyes during the first few sets, like he needed time to recalibrate. The way his focus kept slipping, not badly, just enough that I could tell his head was somewhere else. Mine was too. You're distracted, I said quietly as I handed him dumbbells. He glanced at me, then smirked. You're one to talk. That broke the tension. Just enough. Over the next week, we fell into a strange, careful rhythm. We didn't pull away, but we didn't rush forward either. We trained like always, but now workouts ended with long looks instead of casual goodbyes. Conversations lingered. Silences felt loaded. Outside the gym, we saw each other more. Still low-key. Still safe. Dinners. Walks. Sitting on opposite ends of his couch, pretending there wasn't a whole lot of space we weren't using. One night, he finally said it. I keep thinking about how easy it is with you, Justin said, staring at his hands. That scares me. Why? Because easy usually means temporary for me. I leaned back, letting his words settle. It doesn't have to. He looked up. You say that like you believe it. I do, I said. But belief doesn't mean pressure. We don't have to label this, or rush it, or explain it to anyone. Justin exhaled slowly. Thank you. That was the moment I realized something important. Justin wasn't afraid of me. He was afraid of losing control over a version of himself he'd spent years building. And I wasn't here to tear that down. The first time Justin stayed over, it wasn't planned. At least that's what we told ourselves. It was late, one of those nights where the air feels heavier than usual and leaving feels like more effort than staying. We'd eaten, talked, sat in comfortable silence, and suddenly it was past midnight. He checked his phone, frowned at the time, then set it face down on the table. I'm too tired to drive, he said, like he was testing the words. You can crash here, I replied just as evenly. Couch or bed? Your call. He hesitated longer than necessary, then looked at me. Bed, if that's okay. It is, I said, and I meant it. We brushed our teeth side by side, not touching, stealing glances in the mirror like teenagers who didn't quite know what to do with themselves. When the lights were off and we lay down, there was a familiar stillness, the same kind we'd shared in the locker room, in his car, on gym mats. Only this time there was nowhere else to go. He lay on his back, hands folded loosely on his stomach. I lay on my side, facing him, careful not to crowd his space. The room smelled faintly like soap and clean sheets. This feels big, he said quietly. Yeah, I answered. But it doesn't have to be scary. He turned his head toward me. In the low light, his expression was open in a way I hadn't seen before. No armor, no calculations, You're good at this, he said. At what? Being steady. I swallowed. I learned the hard way. Okay, he whispered. Okay, I echoed. Morning came quietly, pale light through the curtains, the sound of traffic waking up outside. Justin stirred first, blinking like he wasn't sure where he was. Then he focused on me, still there, still real. A slow smile spread across his face. Hey, hey, I said. He laughed softly, rubbing his face. This might be my favorite leg day recovery ever. I rolled my eyes. You're impossible. But consistent, he replied, grinning. We lay there a little longer, unhurried. No panic, no regret, just a calm certainty that whatever this was, it was worth showing up for. Later, back at the gym, everything felt different again, but in a good way. Stronger, more aligned. When Justin handed me a water bottle between sets, our fingers brushed, and he squeezed once, quick and reassuring. We didn't need to hide. We didn't need to announce anything either. We were building something in the space between reps, between words, between careful choices. Something grounded in trust, patience, and the strange gift of having known each other's bodies long before we dared to know each other's hearts. And for the first time, neither of us was in a hurry to see where it led. We were already exactly where we needed to be. The thing about crossing a line carefully is that once you're on the other side, you don't feel reckless. You feel intentional. Justin and I never sat down and had the conversation. No "what are we" speech. No rules written out loud. But we started showing up for each other in small, unmistakable ways that said more than labels ever could. He started waiting for me after workouts instead of heading straight out. I started keeping my weekends lighter, just in case he wanted company. We shared playlists, groceries, inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. The gym wasn't just where we trained anymore, it was where we communicated without needing words. I knew his limits now, not just physically. I knew when he needed silence instead of reassurance. I knew when his confidence dipped, even if his posture stayed strong. And he knew me too, knew when I pushed myself too hard, when I deflected with humor, when I needed grounding instead of praise. That kind of knowing sneaks up on you. One evening, we trained later than usual. The gym was almost empty, lights dimmed, music low. Justin was finishing a set, and I watched the way he moved, controlled, familiar, confident. Not just strong, but comfortable in himself. He caught me watching. What? He asked, breathless. I shrugged. You look good when you're not trying to. He laughed, then shook his head. You're dangerous. Am I? I teased. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Yeah, because you make things feel possible. Later that night, back at my place, he curled up beside me on the couch, head resting against my shoulder like it belonged there. We watched something mindless, neither of us paying attention. Can I ask you something? He said. Always. Do you ever worry that this is just temporary curiosity for me? I didn't answer right away. I wanted to be honest, not reassuring for the sake of it. I think curiosity is how people start listening to themselves, I said finally. What matters is whether you keep listening. He nodded slowly. I am. I tilted my head so my temple rested against his. That's enough for me. He let out a breath I think he'd been holding for a long time. From that point on, the fear didn't disappear, but it softened. It stopped running the show. Justin didn't flinch anymore when our hands met in public. He didn't overthink every glance. He started introducing me to people without qualifiers. Not explanations, just presence. This is Brian. That was it. And somehow that was everything. We still trained hard, still pushed each other, still argued about programming and rest days like idiots. But now there was an undercurrent of warmth beneath it all. A sense of us that didn't need defending. One night, lying side by side, muscles sore, minds quiet, Justin said, almost to himself, I don't think I've ever felt this balanced. I smiled into the darkness. Strong core, I said. Good form. He snorted, then turned toward me, serious again. I'm glad it's you. So was I. Because what we'd built wasn't just attraction or momentum. It was trust layered on trust. A connection forged slowly, deliberately, through shared effort and shared space. We hadn't rushed into knowing each other. We'd earned it, and that made all the difference. The shift from something we were careful with to something we relied on was so subtle I almost missed it. It showed up in the smallest moments. Justin started texting me photos of meals like they mattered. I started leaving a spare toothbrush at his place without asking. We once really argued about something stupid, like whether rest days were optional or mandatory, and instead of pulling away afterward, we talked it through. That was new. For both of us. What surprised me most wasn't how close we were becoming. It was how normal it felt. One afternoon, we trained arms, one of those sessions where the pump feels ridiculous and everything's a little looser. Between sets, Justin sat on the floor, back against the mirror, arms resting on his knees. I dropped down beside him. "You ever think about where you'd be if you hadn't joined this gym?" he asked. I smiled. "Probably still working out alone. Overthinking everything." He nodded. "Same." Then he added quietly, "I don't think I would have figured this out otherwise." "This?" I asked, though I knew what he meant. He glanced at me, then looked away. "Me." That landed harder than any confession. I didn't rush to respond. I just leaned my shoulder into his, solid and there. After a moment, he leaned back. Not dramatic, not emotional, just enough. We stayed like that until one of the staff cleared their throat awkwardly and told us the floor wasn't a lounge area. Justin laughed, stood up, and offered me a hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. I took it. The first time we were openly affectionate around someone else really openly, it was accidental. We were at a CF near the gym, mid-conversation, when Justin reached over and brushed a crumb off my lip without thinking. His fingers lingered for half a second too long. The barista definitely noticed. Justin froze. I felt him pull back slightly, that old reflex kicking in. Instead of letting it spiral, I smiled and kept talking like nothing had happened. A moment later, I felt his knee press gently against mine under the table. "Thank you." Later, outside, he exhaled sharply. "I didn't even think." I shrugged. "Neither did I. That's kind of the point." He studied me for a second, then nodded. Yeah, it is." There were still moments of doubt. Of course there were. Identity doesn't rewrite itself overnight. Some days he was quiet, distant, processing. On those days, I didn't push. I stayed consistent. That was the promise I'd made without ever saying it out loud. And he did the same for me. One night, after a particularly rough week, I admitted something I hadn't planned to. "I keep waiting for the part where this falls apart." Justin turned toward me fully. "Why?" "Because good things usually come with conditions." He thought about that, then shook his head. "Not this one." "How do you know?" "Because we're not pretending," he said. "And we're not forcing it." He reached for my hand, squeezing once. "We're choosing it. Every day." That was the moment I stopped bracing for impact. Because he was right. We weren't running on momentum or chemistry alone. We were building something steady, grounded, real. Something that could hold weight. We still challenged each other. Still pushed. Still learned new things about training, about communication, about ourselves. But now there was trust under everything we did. Not blind trust. Earned trust. And as I watched Justin laugh across the gym one evening, completely unguarded, I realized something that made my chest ache in the best way. And that kind of strength doesn't fade when the reps stop. Carries. The last piece fell into place on a day that didn't feel important at all. No milestone. No announcement. Just another workout. We were finishing up, wiping down equipment, talking about nothing weekend plans, a movie Justin wanted to see, whether we should deload the following week. The gym was busy, loud, alive, people everywhere. And then, without thinking, Justin reached for my hand. Not dramatic, not cautious, just natural. For half a second, I waited for him to realize it and pull back. He didn't. He kept talking, thumb brushing once against my knuckles, grounding himself without even looking at me. Something in my chest loosened completely in that moment, like I'd been holding my breath for months without realizing it. Later, outside, I said, "You know you did that, right?" He smiled, soft and unguarded. Yeah, and it felt right, he said, then added, almost amused, I didn't even check my surroundings. I laughed. Look at you. Growth. He bumped his shoulder into mine. Guess my form's improving. That night, lying together, muscles sore, bodies familiar in the quiet dark, Justin turned to me and said, I don't feel like I'm figuring something out anymore. What do you mean? I think I already did, he said. I just needed time to trust it. I rested my hand against his chest, steady heartbeat under my palm. And now I know who I am when I'm with you, he said. And I like that guy. That was it. No grand declaration. No labels forced into place. Just truth. We kept training together, kept pushing each other, kept choosing each other in small, consistent ways. Some people at the gym figured it out. Some didn't. It didn't matter. What mattered was this. We didn't fall into something reckless. We didn't chase a spark and burn out. We built strength the same way we always had, slow, intentional, rep by rep. And standing beside Justin now, spotting him without thinking, knowing exactly when to step in and when to let him push through on his own, I realized something simple and solid. This wasn't an accident. It was practice. And we got very, very good at it.